welcome writers, game masters, and creatives to the World Builders Tavern. Today we are talking about the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. If you haven't seen this movie, just be warned, we will have all sorts of spoilers in here. So grab an ale and pull up a chair. I'm Emma, your friendly barkeep, along with Allison.
Hi.
And Christiana.
Hello.
And we are so happy to have you here. Cheers.
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 So this movie has been incredibly well received, both by audiences as well as by the film world. It is sweeping all of the Oscar nominations. The Oscars have not yet happened at the time of this recording, but it has been nominated for what sounds like almost every category. And in my opinion, I think that is super well deserved because this movie was excellent. The characters, the world, the story, everything was great. But that is enough for me. Christiane and Allie, what did you think of this movie and its world?
So this movie was one of my suggestions for us to cover.
Great job. Great pick.
Because, thank you. It's not hard to make me cry. I do cry at a lot of things. This movie made me like ugly sob, like snot running down my face, ugly sob by the end of it. And I did not expect that from a movie where hot dog fingers play such a large role.
I had to pause the movie for a good 2 minutes at the scene specifically where the hot dog finger wife is playing the piano with her toes. I lost it. I had to pause the movie and laughed for 2 minutes straight. That was just so unexpected.
It's so funny. And the butt plug scene
my
where they're
goodness.
like fighting over who's gonna use the butt plug. Like all of it is so bonkers. But Allie, I know this is not generally your cup of tea, so I'm deeply curious as to what you thought of it.
This movie is so weird. Oh my goodness. Like all the things you've already said just sort of encompass my feelings about how strange this movie is. I don't even know what to say about it. It's not something I would watch again. I understand why people love it so much because it's kind of the right kind of bonkers. Like it's it's saying a lot of really deep things in amongst all the bonkers, which is why I think it's so intriguing.
Yeah.
But man, this is weird. And I'm really
so
excited
weird,
to talk about like how weird the multiverse travel is, because that's a very common thing in sci-fi.
Yep.
Like alternate universes, and this movie did some strange things with its rules.
Let's talk about that. What were some of those weird rules? What is this multiverse travel all about?
When I forget the main character's name. When he eats the chapstick, I was so grossed out. I think that's the first time you see the weird rule of how multiverse, and I was just like, this is so like, what is happening? I can't even. I'm so grossed out.
The visceral cringing that I did in this movie, specifically, my horrible one was when he ate the gum from under the desk.
That got me.
I have seen that
also
happen in a
got me.
couple of movies, actually. It's a recurring thing. That is my number one ick. The trope of eating somebody else's old gum, just, I could vomit. It was horrifying.
Disgusting. But the idea of like, you have to do something bonkers to get into another multiverse is super interesting.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that a lot. I thought that was very creative.
And it also makes sense within the universe too, right? Like, in order to jump to another thing, you kind of have to do something that's never been done before.
Yeah.
And like that makes sense to me, because when you're thinking every once in a while, and I've been thinking this for like years and years, because I'm a weirdo, but whenever I do something slightly odd, I think to myself, I betcha I'm like the first person to clean my walls with Windex who's lived in this apartment. You know what I mean? Like, I think about random things like that.
I mean, I think the key is also to do something that you wouldn't do. So it's not necessarily that something that someone else might do, but for you, because you're trying to access this
there
version.
Aren't a bunch of chapstick munching.
I'm sure it's been done before.
The number of children that I'm sure
something.
have eaten lip smackers has got to be.
Yeah. That's a 90s throwback. Hey.
Oh man.
I feel like I maybe would have eaten a lip smack.
But this movie is also all about like different choices and regrets, and so like the idea that you have to try and do something that you wouldn't do to access your alter ego, I think is really fitting.
The themes of this movie and the world of this movie were so interconnected, which I think is the strongest sort of world building. You want your world to matter to whatever story you're telling, and this, you could not have told this story without this world, which I think is just a brilliant example of how to do it right. And it was just that, like, that it's all about choices, and making a bizarro choice breaks the world that you've built is amazing.
I was really flabbergasted by the beginning of the movie when I first started watching, because I'm like, this is really boring and like sad, and I'm like feeling uncomfortable watching this, because like I just feel this character's who's the main character? I love her, that actress,
Evelyn.
by the way. She's so good.
Michelle, Michelle.
Oh,
Yeoh
okay,
is
sorry, the character.
Michelle Yeoh.
Evelyn,
She
yes.
She plays a character in Star Trek Discovery that I just adore, so it was really exciting to see her in this movie.
Yeah, I think she's phenomenal in everything. She's just amazing. One of those actors. If I see her name on something, I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah, exactly. So like, just like her, it's not even, I don't know if I would describe it as depression, but almost just like listlessness, or like just resignedness to her life.
I kind of saw it as like resigned, like she was just resigned to what was happening, for sure.
Just, or numb almost. It was really neat to see her sort of start to care as the movie progressed and be less numb. I thought that was really neat. But yeah, the world was so drab at the beginning. You're just like, this is a sci-fi movie,
that was
right?
Kind of the point, though,
I know, yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's like that, that contrast of like,
I'm not like
through their life,
I'm not critiquing it as a bad thing. I just thought, I think it did a really good job of making that contrast. And her husband is so sweet.
Oh, I love him.
Oh my goodness, so sweet.
So I can't credit myself. I read this somewhere else in a review that using the multiverse as a metaphor for immigrants and like all the different worlds you live in at once. And I'm like, that's such a good observation, because that is exactly what the story is telling as well. Like, there's all these different layers of what this movie is doing, and that's also one of them.
Yeah, there's so many like little, I've watched it a few times now and cried equally hard every single time. But every time I watch it, I feel like I pick up on something new. Like the dialogue where Wayman is saying, oh, it's like you wake up and something's strange and your hair doesn't fall the same way or whatever. It took me a while to realize it's that song, like she cried a river and drowned the whole world. Like, this is the story of a girl who cried a river. Like, it's the lyrics to that song. And that song is actually in the movie in a few different forms. They recorded a few different forms for that song. There's like little things like that. Like everything about it is just, every single detail is thought out and like meaningful. And because that's kind of what the movie is. It's about a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world, except she made it everything bagel and tried to destroy it.
I just also, I don't know how to replicate this, embracing the silliness and the seriousness in a story at the same time. Like, somehow it manages to juggle both of those things. How do you two think you could replicate that in your own writing and world building?
I think I've talked about this on the podcast in his previous iteration, but there's a novel that I love that reminds me of this movie, and it's called Crooked Little Vein by Warren Ellis.
I've heard of that one. Haven't read it.
Equally bizarre, and like really, really bizarre and inappropriate kind of bizarre. And it's kind of the same thing where it's like this character is going on a search. The search itself is bizarre. He's like trying to find a secret declaration on alien skin that the government is hiding. and he's a private detective, and he's running through all of these crazy characters and all these crazy situations. And like I said, they're largely inappropriate and very bizarre. But it's also kind of like a self-discovery journey. I think that's a good example of it, where in writing, you don't have to show me hot dog fingers, even though in the book he talks about things way grosser than hot dog fingers. But it's that juxtaposition, right? And I think you could include that in your writing. I think to a lesser extent, someone to look to is, or a book to look to, I guess I should say, is like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Still has like messages and a plot and characters who develop, but it's also pretty silly and a little weird, right?
A lot weird.
Yeah, a lot weird. But you don't have to, you can have a serious story set amongst these weird things, as long as the contrast kind of brings purpose to it to some extent, I think is what I would say. Doing weird just for the sake of weird doesn't always come across great, which is a lot for me to say as a very weird person who loves very weird things. But if you're doing it, why are you doing it? Does it push the story forward? It could be something as silly as hot dog fingers, but showing someone with hot dog fingers playing the piano with their feet is like kind of like a weirdly touching moment too, because she's realizing, oh, I need to like maintain relationships with people, and I should love my hot dog finger wife who's playing the piano with her feet. You know what I mean? Like, you can do that as long as there's more to it than kind of the shock value of it.
I remember thinking while watching the movie how attached I became to the storyline of the hot dog finger wives.
I know.
That, like, I think I cried. I started crying at their storyline and then kind of just kept going. I was like, this is so...
I think this movie is a really good lesson in your world building doesn't have to make sense. Like, hot dog fingers don't make sense. There's no reason for someone to have... what's the word? You know, biologically,
like evolution,
evolution. Yeah, there's no reason that they would have evolved. And I sometimes think as writers, we get really caught up in like, oh, how does this like really function? What are the details? I have to know exactly why, you know, how and why and everything. And so in a way, your world building has to make sense because it has to make sense with the story, but it doesn't necessarily have to make sense as a world.
I think it's a lesson in trusting your audience to suspend their belief.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's internally consistent, your audience, like, yes, you're probably gonna, if it's like a bestseller novel, I'm sure there's some people who watched this movie and thought, there's no way an everything bagel could destroy the multiverse, and there's no reason for hot dog fingers, and there's no way Rakakuni would be physically capable of directing someone from under their chef's hat, right? Like, I'm certain there's a couple people who thought that, but that's not your audience, right? You're writing to people who enjoy the genre, who hopefully enjoy your writing, who enjoy stories. You have to have a little faith that they're willing to suspend some belief and put those things aside to enjoy the story.
And it's obvious the movie isn't interested in those questions.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
They don't care. That's not the point of this story.
Remembering who your audience is, or that there will be an audience for your specific thing, is important, because, there's some people who only like hard sci-fi and they only like science and world building that makes scientific sense. But that's not everybody. Not everybody likes that.
We have a great novel for that episode.
Yeah, we sure do.
Andy Weir's novel.
But not everything has to be written for them, and they're not going to like everything, and that's okay. There's different things for different people. And I think your world building has to make sense for the genre that you are writing in. Like, this is a surrealist movie. The silliness and the craziness, it's surrealism. It's exploring the world in a way that is different than just logical and rational. And so then it's okay to do things like have hot dog fingers, but put that in George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones and it just breaks the story. If you have Jon Snow with hot dog fingers, it ruins everything. So you've got to make your world specific for, or maybe it doesn't, it ruins the story as it currently exists because it becomes a completely different story. So
I have never been able to get through Game of Thrones, and I feel like I might if Jon Snow
just there you go, just picture it in your head. You said in the last episode how you fixate on things and images. Just now picture Jon Snow with hot dog fingers and you are good to go.
Done.
You aren't the audience that George R.R. Martin.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
shooting
Yeah.
for. So exactly.
And you could respect things that are outside of you could respect things that are outside of your audience and still appreciate them for a good story.
Mhm.
So like I said, I've
Yes.
never been able to get through Game of Thrones. Actually, just today I started trying to rewatch it because I watched House of the Dragon. And I was like, okay, this got me into it more because there's just like a lot of gross stuff up front in Game of Thrones for me that was kind of hard to get over before
Yes.
Yep.
getting to the good stuff. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, now I see what it could be. I'll give it another shot. But throughout this entire time, I've always been like, I have no doubt that there's a reason why tons of people enjoy this. Like it's not going to be a bestseller. It's not going to be a hit TV show unless there's an audience for it. And maybe I'm not that audience, and that's okay.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that I have to hate on it. It doesn't mean
Exactly.
that people should be frustrated with me for not liking it. In the same
that's
way,
how
even
I
though
feel about this movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It wasn't
That's
really
exactly
written for
it.
me. Yeah.
Sometimes
I
you're
still
allowed to
appreciate
just
it.
like take a step back and be like, that was a good story. Wasn't my story.
Yep.
And just move on.
Exactly.
And I think that going back to the original question of how do you mix elements of the serious with the silly, I think it's by having a very clear idea in your head what the purpose of each is and how that fits into the larger purpose of your story. Because both have to be contributing to that larger narrative, and they can do it in different ways. The silliness is going to contribute differently than the poignant moments are, but they have to both be connected to your main story, or else one of them isn't going to make sense and they won't hit as hard. And ideally, they should both also connect and interweave with each other. What does the silliness highlight about those poignant moments? What do the poignant moments show us about the silliness? Use them as mirrors almost for each other to show different, as though you're looking at a sculpture and you're holding up a mirror to different sides of it to see different angles. Use that in the way you're approaching your story with different ways of approaching it.
That's a really good metaphor.
Yeah, I think we often think about world building and story as like these two separate things when it's so much better if you weave them together, like what Emma's saying.
Just to jump off of what you're saying, Emma, all of the weird things in this contribute to this concept of relationships and existing in different worlds and trying to come together. Right? That's what like every single one is about, no matter how silly. Like the scene where they're just rocks with googly eyes and she's like,
oh my goodness,
if you chuck yourself off this cliff, I'm going to chuck myself off this cliff. Like no doubt about it. I'm with you. I've never cried so hard over rocks before in my entire life.
I don't know how this movie made me care about rocks with googly eyes.
Yeah.
And there wasn't even dialogue being spoken. It was all in text. Right?
Yeah.
I think,
which was amazing.
I really felt that scene connected to a specific, because she talks about Joy talks about in that scene how she comes here to just kind of get away from it all, and it's so nice, it's so peaceful. And I felt peaceful in that scene. I thought to myself, well, this would be a really nice escape from the, capitalist hellscape that we live in day to day. I would love to be able to just go be a rock. Or when they're doing the bizarro things at the beginning, like eating the chapstick or giving himself paper cuts between his fingers, I couldn't watch. I was like, this is worse than any horror film I've ever seen. Because it's connecting to a visceral, emotional part of us. And so that, I think, is when ridiculousness and surrealism and all of that craziness works, is when it can be as out there as you want, but if it is tethered back to a human experience, then your audience can connect with it. And all you need is that connection. Doesn't matter how you do it, doesn't matter how out there it is. If you can connect to it, suddenly it all makes sense.
Yeah. And there are some worlds where it is not that crazy, right? The world in which she's super, super famous, right? And she sees Wayman again, and it's like they were childhood friends, and it kind of has the same start. But then at some point they split off and she has her own world and everything like that. That's not that crazy of a world, but it's still so impactful to the story, especially the line where he's like, in another world, I would love to do laundry and taxes with you. And I was like, man, if that ain't marriage. Like that's just the most touching thing. Yeah.
There was one line that hit me even harder than that one. I'd seen that line before because it's all over TikTok and stuff, and I love that line. But there was a part, or there was a moment a little bit earlier than that, which struck me so hard, which was the first time she sees that life and how amazing it is. And then Alpha Wayman comes into her husband's body and she's saying, no, I need to talk to my husband because I saw how great my life is and I want to tell him about it. And it didn't really come off as like, I need to rub this in his face or like, look how great my life would have been without him. But it's even in that moment, seeing this version of herself without him, he's still her person. He's still the person she wants to tell everything to. And I think the whole movie is sort of her realizing that, because there definitely is this their relationship sort of B plot of their marriage, but it's kind of her discovering something she already knew, which was her life is better with him in it no matter what. And that was just beautiful. I love that.
I don't even know what else to say.
Well,
everything
that's
about
a good
is so
segue into our proprietor's pick for this.
So, Allie, what could you possibly have thought of that is like this movie to recommend to us?
Yeah, this was a real tough one. But I found a really fun anthology of short stories called Multiverses, an anthology of alternate realities.
Ooh.
It's coming March 28th, which is in 2 weeks, I think, when this podcast airs. This anthology brings together an international cast of luminaries to explore the infinite worlds of what could be. The smashed together chaos of multiple Londons piled on top of each other. A world where a tunnel turns Japan and the United States into close neighbors. Catastrophic accidents on multidimensional spacecraft. Shadowy organizations and the merciless assassins they control. The unstoppable force of your infinite grandmothers. This anthology includes... I know, right? This anthology includes stories by Clive Barker, Alex E. Harrow, Ken... Oh dear, I don't know how to pronounce this. Ken Liu, Alistair Reynolds, and more. So some really, top names in the authors here, and it just sounds really fun, especially that last line, your infinite grandmothers. Yes, please.
I think one of my grandmothers is scary. I couldn't imagine a whole infinite army of my grandma. She's amazing. She's the best person ever, but just send in an army with wooden spoons and there'd be world peace.
So I can't guarantee this anthology will be as weird as Everything Everywhere, but it sounds like a lot of fun. And so if you like the whole multiverse, alternate universes trope, which I think is a lot of fun, then you might like this anthology.
Thank you very much for that recommendation, Allie. I think I'm definitely going to read that. So maybe I'll do a little sentence on a podcast in future about how I found it.
Do it.
But with that, it is time for last call. So we are going to sum up for you some questions or thoughts that you should think about, or what you can learn from Everything Everywhere All at Once when you're building your own worlds. Allie and Christiana, what you got?
So my question is, if you're going to do something that's been done before, we know the idea of a multiverse is quite popular, especially right now with the Marvel franchise kind of taking over the airwaves. But if you're going to do something that's been done before, like a multiverse, can you make it weird? And if you are going to make it weird, will making it weird make it better? There's a time and a place for weird.
I will just reiterate that if you have really ridiculous world building plus really serious themes in your writing, that you just ensure that you're weaving these things together and that the world building isn't world building for its own sake, but it actually fits in with your story.
And I will say, think about how the nature of your world affects and changes your characters. Whether that is in a hard science or hard magic system where these people evolved this way because of this climate, or whether it's in a more esoteric way, like the infinite reality of the universe has turned me to nihilism, like Joy faces in this movie. How does the way your world exists impact your characters and their stories? This was a great pick for a movie. Thank you, Christiana, for suggesting this.
Yeah, thanks.
Once I finished the movie, I didn't think I would watch it again. I remember saying that to my partner. I was like, I think I got everything out of it that I needed to the first time. But now you've mentioned some things, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have to watch this one again.
I will not be watching it again, but I still appreciate it.
Allie supports those of us who want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I support your weirdness.
Thank you.
If you listeners have learned something from this podcast, had something else to comment on about the movie, or anything else world building related, contact us. We've got a Twitter, we've got a TikTok, we've got an email. All of those contact informational links are going to be in the notes for our show. We'd love to hear from you. But right now, we are closing up. So thank you so much for joining us in the tavern, and we hope to see you here again soon. Now scram.
See ya.
Go find your hot dog fingered wife out there.
Can that be our closing every episode?